Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to KSR's rapid reaction of Kentucky's 64-51 loss at Alabama. With the loss, Kentucky falls to 15-2 and 2-1 in the SEC. We're sitting there in the press conference, asking, of course, a virtual press conference, asking Kenny questions, and it almost just feels not pointless, but it's just there's not a whole lot of questions to ask because you kind of just knew what the problem was the entire game, right? Kentucky got out to an 11-2 lead and was immediately punched in the mouth. Like Alabama makes a 10-0 run to respond to Kentucky's 10-0 run. And unfortunately, just Kentucky isn't able to really get it together at all. Um, you can't really look across, the box score and see that anyone that played really well. Um, Besides maybe Asia Boone, but even then she fell out. So um, it's really unfortunate because you sit there and you watch this team and you look at Alabama. And I think even without Tiani Key out, on paper, Kentucky is the better team, right? And it's frustrating because you get this big win over LSU. Okay, and LSU's lost to Vanderbilt. And I didn't look at their score against Georgia, but I know LSU beat Georgia. But there is that small thought of, well, is LSU that good? And I still think they are. I still think they're a top 15 team. And I do think that was still a really good win for Kentucky. But, you sit and look at that, just how SEC play has gone so far. And before tonight, you're sitting there thinking, I don't know if Kentucky's going to win the SEC. It's going to be tough to make that kind of push against, you know, say a Texas or South Carolina to win the SEC. But you're sitting there going, okay, we have a real shot to, be, let's say if South Carolina or Texas drops a game or two, they shouldn't. We had a real shot to be there in the mix, right? And it's tough because tonight was Alabama's 16-1, and it's like Kenny said in his post game, they are a top 25 team, right? They should be a top 25 team, even though they aren't ranked right now. I'm sure they will be in the next poll, assuming they beat whoever they play on Sunday. But for Kentucky, it's just frustrating because it felt like you should have won this game, even without Tiani Key, right? On paper, obviously. I'm not saying Kentucky should have won based on how the game went at all. And it's just frustrating because, you know, it's like I have the angel and the devil on my shoulder. And the angel on my shoulder is telling me, Phoenix, remember the Texas A&M game last year? Remember the Ole Miss game last year? Ole Miss was a good team, but really you think about those two games, Kentucky lost. They were stinkers. But you know what? You moved on and you still won games, finished fourth in the SEC, won 11-5 in conference play, and had a really good season, right? And then the devil on my shoulder is saying, well, you were sitting there down by 20 points to Alabama. You made a run late in the game to make the score look prettier. You know, are you really that good without Tiani Key? And I thought Kentucky playing without Tiani Key against Wright State and Hofstra would help a lot, but that clearly wasn't the case. Again, it sucks because also, watching the game, I'm sitting there going, well, Christy Curry's just coaching her butt off. And of course, I say that, and that implies that, well, she ran circles around Kenny. And I don't know. Maybe that's true to a degree, but I feel like Kenny's handicapped by Tiani being out. I don't know what all he can really do with Clara Strack shooting 1 of 13 from the field, right? Clara Strack had her worst game offensively, at least, for Kentucky. She had 13 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals, stats she normally puts up, in wins that look good. But she had 4 points, was 1 of 13 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3-point range, and 2 of 5 from the free throw line. Very forgettable game for Claire Streck. Unfortunate right after she gets the nod for mid-season Wooden Award, watch list or whatever. You just look across the stat sheet and no one came ready to play. Again, besides maybe Asia Boone, who had 12 points. And like I said, even then, she fouled out. Tiani Key's presence is definitely missed, but I think Kenny is right when he talked about how, well, it really just kind of started with Kentucky being disconnected this game. They just couldn't get on. They couldn't get on the same page. They just couldn't find a rhythm. And, now you're sitting there losing to Alabama, who, again, is a team you should beat, just didn't. So, to just kind of think for the rest of the season, because I don't know. This game feels like a wash. I want to flush this game down the toilet and forget it ever happened. I know you can't do that necessarily, but just looking at Sunday's game now against Oklahoma. Okay, Oklahoma lost tonight too. Oklahoma lost to Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss is obviously a good team. They're ranked number 18, and it was, I want to say 74-68 or something. So, anyone can drop a game in the SEC. And this is the angel on my shoulder trying to talk to me now, where every game in the SEC, besides maybe A&M, like a Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, besides like a small select group of teams, you can lose night in or night out to really any team in the conference, and it'd be like, oh, well, you just didn't have your stuff that night. And that's clearly what happened tonight against Alabama. Of course, now there's just the devil on your shoulder saying, or is that because you're just not that good without Tiani Key? Is that, Tiani Key's out against a good team and you're suddenly run off the floor? I felt like Claire Strack, Tony Morgan, really everybody tried playing, not going to say hero ball because I don't know if that's what it was, but excuse me, it just felt like everyone tried to do way too much, right? I mean, Kentucky had 20 turnovers, right? It just felt like they were trying to do too much. They weren't on the same page, and that's how you're down to Alabama like you are. It's just really unfortunate because, again, like I've said a couple times already, on paper you should probably win this game. South Carolina beat Alabama by 30. You lose to Alabama by 13. Now, I know games don't, I know, like, that would say Kentucky should lose to South Carolina by, 40. I know that's not how this whole, I know the transitive or whatever. I know that's not how it goes. I know game to game is very different. But it does make you question, is there still that gap? We thought Kentucky was right there knocking on the door, being the top team in the SEC. You knew South Carolina and Texas were probably a step above, but you sat and thought, well, are we right there? Is that South Carolina and Texas, maybe Kentucky and maybe Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and then the rest of the pack? Or now are you saying it's Kentucky and South Carolina and Texas, maybe Vandy and Oklahoma, and then the rest of the pack that Kentucky would be down here with? Kenny said, he even said post game, he's like, I don't know if we're really number 6, especially without Tiani Key. And, you love that honesty from your head coach. I don't know if I loved hearing him say it, but I get it. You know what I mean? So, 64-51 loss. There's just not a lot to say other than they just got to be better. They got to figure this stuff out. And, it's Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You better figure it out before 4 p.m. Or is it 4 o'clock? Yeah, 4 o'clock on Sunday. You better figure it out because you play a number 5 team in the country. And they're coming off a loss too. So, both teams are going to be really hungry for a win. I guess you're kind of just hoping that you're hungrier. You're hoping you play better. But let me tell you, Oklahoma is the best rebounding team in the SEC. and I'm pretty sure the best in the country, averaging like 53 rebounds a game. So, you know, got to come ready to play against the Sooners. So, I'm Phoenix Stevens with KSR's rapid reaction of Kentucky's loss to Alabama, 64-51 down in Coleman Coliseum. Not a fun one. Like I said, Kentucky got up 11-2, got punched in the mouth, and just didn't do a whole lot after that. Disappointing loss, 15. But hey, you know what? I guess on the bright side of things a little bit, being 15-2 overall, not really a bad spot to be in. And to be honest, I think a lot of people thought you'd lose that LSU game. So maybe you could say this is where you thought you'd be anyway. Maybe even a step above where you thought you'd be. But, I know that's not how we look at games. You look at games as we're going to try to win them all. So, and get out of here. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. Really appreciate it here on the KSR YouTube channel. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in to this 11-minute, really just kind of sobbing for me, right, to get over this loss and to kind of give my rapid reaction to it. But it's much appreciated. Thank you all for being here. I will see you all next time. I will see you all on Sunday, specifically. Hopefully the rapid reaction for that one is a bit happier. I guess we'll have to see. See you all next time. Thank you so much. Go Cats.